Welcome back to Steel Curtain Productions. Please hit the likes and the subscribe down in your right hand corner. Like I promised, I'd be right back after the breaking news of Kenny Pickett's episode of him being traded. All right, the next episode, which I was supposed to do before that news broke, was a breakdown of the new hires for our offense. And of course, I know it's sort of old news to some of you, but breakdown wise, what the breakdown of it could be and what do we think it is. So really, I can't. The Steelers go in a direction that's kind of surprising to me, to be honest. So it leaves us not knowing much about the individuals hired. So we have Arthur Smith, who was the head coach of the Falcons for the last 3 years, and for me, his record doesn't say much. 7-10, 3 years in a row. Now, let's take into consideration that's coaching, being the head coach. So it looked like his duties before he became a head coach there were in Tennessee, where he was offensive coordinator. So he's got a little more experience in the coordinator field. And sometimes teams will do that, take a chance on hiring a guy with because that's how you find some new coaches. Evidently, you find out that there's a lot more that it doesn't work with going into head coaching than it does work out with in football. So it didn't work out for him in Atlanta as a head coach, but let's pray to God that his offensive coordinating skills are good enough, because I don't know much about the guy myself, which leaves me reeling a bit. And I don't know. We've been making some decisions since some changes have been made, and it leaves us out in left field, and it kind of leaves you with what the heck are we supposed to think? It leaves you with what's left to be desired here, because it's not a direction you expect. You expect something like when you hear Bill Belichick's available. Well, you'd love to be able to have him, wouldn't you? Right? When you got names like that, like again, the same thing. Somehow, if you could work a Pete Carroll into your team, these are smart football men. Now, mind you, Pete's more on the defensive side of things. However, that's you would expect somebody with a success ratio more so, and I don't know what the Steelers are doing here right now. I am with today's news that Pickett gone. Like I say, thank God we got Russell Wilson in, because we're hanging on a thread with one quarterback now. Like, this is just way beyond. I don't know what's going on. It's kind of scary. But anyway, Arthur Smith, he tends to bring in a play action type style. So expect a bit of that with the run and, that type of system. Hopefully, like I say, he can focus, and maybe he's better at that than he was at being a head coach. That's all I can say. We can pray to God for that. He must have something. Like I say, I'm still kind of baffled. Not a knock against him, because anyone coming in, I give a fair shake to. The only thing I don't like here is there were two more offensive coaches hired as well. And it's so damn funny that they seem to be connected to Arthur Smith. And that's great that he's the offensive coordinator and all, but I think there's got to be a little control from above. That a guy just coming in, it's an awful lot to say for these two coaches that are being brought in. Now, I do like that Tom Arth is from the Charger system, and he dealt with the offense there. And the Chargers are an up and rising team, so looking from that standpoint, he looks like he could be a big positive. When I look at the second offensive coaches, and these are both assistants, right, that have been hired by the Steelers, and like I say, they're connected to Arthur Smith. There's no and ifs and buts and whats about it. The other fellow is Baker, who is an assistant, and he had some connections to Arthur, through the college programs and stuff like that. So there's always a connection here, and that for me, I get a little bit bothered. I'm glad they held on to Sullivan. He remains in the Steelers system, and he did a fine job after Canada flopped so badly. So it's good to see him hang around. However, he's got different duties, and they've kind of spread out his duties, so he evidently can handle a lot of responsibility. There's no doubt. So I do like what I've seen out of that cat. So that's something I do like. But I am concerned, and again, I give these guys the benefit of the doubt. However, now with all the breaking news that our receiving corps are, we're out there looking for a receiver, and there's news to this too. So, with also the news after Kenny Pickett broke, they cut him loose in a trade, and I still am baffled with the lack of return on him. I don't know how you get a first rounder like that, and you only get a third round to replace him. I'm just shaking my head with that one. When you had so much pump for him, and I just think he's too young to give up on. However, it's got to be something to do with attitude, is all I can say, without knowing. And I don't want to point the finger because I'd like to know more. I mean, there's some guys who were there, like I said, with Dante, you knew he was there longer, so you could see there were attitude issues, right? So that's a little more clear. But anywho, from what is being reported, already after this big explosion today of Pickett being traded off, we already, if you remember, where did the ball start? Where was it started when the Steelers were hunting for QB? They were looking at who? Fields and Wilson. Now, I was glad they chose to go in the direction of Russell Wilson because of his experience. He's a winner. The only thing with Russell Wilson, he's got to keep his head in the game. I think a bit of the commercials, Hollywood got to his head a little bit. Now, if he can focus on football, he'll be phenomenal. Although his numbers were way better than Fields, who was a kid. Now, that's not to knock Fields. But I'm sorry. We tried that. I get concerned because we tried that stunt with Trubinsky from Chicago, and I just don't know if their Chicago system is good enough at scouting quarterbacks. So I have my question marks about Fields. Yes, he's athletic. I'll grant him that. I know the Steelers are big on him. But anyway, to let you know, already, dust hasn't even settled because all the dust is flying after this bomb was dropped today. We've got to make a move with at least getting two more quarterbacks. So his name is the number one name being rumored again that the Steelers may be projected of making some type of deal because Chicago has the top pick this year, and from what Rumorville is saying, they are intent on getting a quarterback, taking that top quarterback. If that is the case, that leaves Fields in limbo. He's not going to want to be a backup with the projection that was for him. He's going to want to have a little longer of a shot and want to be want to be the guy somewhere. So that may make him available. However, why I was against it in the beginning, with the choice being down to him and Wilson. Wilson, you weren't giving up anything in a trade. You had a nice cheap contract, 1 year to test him out. You weren't losing. It's like a gamble. With Fields, it was a little different. The value is higher, and Chicago seemed to be wanting the kitchen sink and the farm. So that's my concern. However, now that we're in that boat, maybe it's a good plan. I don't know. As long as they got their homework done, maybe he'll be more acceptable to looking at a veteran like Russell Wilson, who can be a good mentor to any young quarterback. And maybe that would be a good 1-2 punch. Another name flying out there is Tannehill. We all know what Tannehill is reliable. He's steady. Yeah, he's he wouldn't be a bad depth quarterback. I think for me, if you were to go the route of Fields, Tannehill wouldn't be a bad choice for your third quarterback because he's got experience as well, and he's not a bad quarterback. He's got half decent numbers. He's probably a step up on even Rudolph, being that third guy who was there. So that's the word out is, like I say, Fields and Tannehill's name is out there. They're the main names out there. A little more focus seems to be being thrown towards Fields still, because there was so much rumor prior to. Now we also have the Dante Johnson. We got to do something with our receiving core. And as we know, automatically the first guy that the Steelers have been looking at here for a long while, but there's competition now on trying to get this guy on rosters. And the first teams, I believe it's the Jets, and there was another team that were competing for him. Man, who was that? Anyway, I think it's the Browns. Anywho, so that means there's a lot of focus on this guy. So the Steelers, that's their main choice, Boyd, and I think he'd be a good choice. Out of the two that are on the board that I've heard the names of, and Davis is the second guy, and they kind of pulled Davis's name again because Davis is connected to Arthur Smith, so they got a connection. So what they're saying in their write-ups of this whole thing is that it would definitely add speed, and I sure hope the two of them are better than what Dante Johnson was. Better ratio of being a number one receiver, because I'm a little surprised. And like I say, Boyd, there's a lot of focus on him, so he seems to have a good write-up. I just get concerned because we know the biggest names in wide receiver field, and is this the best path we can go? Are these number one wide receivers? Because that's what we need. Bottom dollar, we can't keep settling for guys that are number three. We just can't do it. If we expect to compete, we got to have a guy that can fly, a guy has no fear, a guy that has the offensive skill, smarts, and can get down the field and has good anticipation and IQ. You need all of those ingredients for a number one. And I'm sorry, you don't get that from a number three. And if you're going to put a number three out there and you're trying to cut corners, well, your cutting corners is also going to cut corners that are keeping you out of the playoffs and keeping you out of an opportunity for Super Bowl. So right now, I am, as much as I love my Steelers, I am extremely concerned where we're headed, because this looks like a nightmare. It really does. I know we've had some additions with, we've got Jackson, as a cornerback. He's just been brought in, and we've got Patrick Queen, who's been brought in. These are guys brought in. I'll talk more about them when I do the next episode. And then we've got Cameron Johnson, I believe his name is. And so these are the three additions. So are they better than what we had in those positions? That's going to be something I'm going to dig up some info on, because like I said, there's a lot of movement. And right now, to me, I remember my words to Steeler Nation, to you guys, was this team is almost like a rebuilding team. However, they've already got the rebuild started, so that they're not totally in a rebuild. They're more like retooling. However, with what's just transpired within this week, if the right steps aren't taken and the offensive coordinators, coaches, whatever we do with the quarterback position, whatever we're doing with the wide receiver position, and the positions we've let guys walk, and we've like I say, Patrick Peterson, that was a class act type of guy, leadership wise. So I get concerned when I see a name like that that's out the door. So I just hope that these guys are better replacements. You want to be upgrading. You don't want to be going backwards. So if this is not the case in it, this could be a big blow up in our face the way this is sitting. Then we will need a rebuild. And I gotta say, what the hell are you doing, Omar? You're new at the job, but what the hell is going on? Really, this team just needed some tweaks the way it was going. We know it, like I said, retooling. But if this is not corrected, you could need a whole rebuild, which would probably set us back 10 years. I don't care what anyone says. Rebuilds are hard to do. I see it in hockey. My team there is doing a rebuild, and they project it when they initially start a 5-year projection. Well, I can tell you already they're behind the 8 wheel. They haven't even turned the corner in the rebuild. Rebuilds are not that easy to do, and most teams in professional sports, it's a 10-year process. It's terrible to say that. If you're lucky at 5 years, 5 years you see results and you start heading in the right direction, but you don't turn any corner for a while. So all I can say is between um, ownership, management, and Tomlin, and the scouting, you better have your act together, because this is right now, it looks like a big mess. So you better be fine tuning and know what you're doing, because this could blow up in your face. So, if you don't make the correct moves, and I'm sorry, uh, Kevin Colbert, he had the history. He was very methodical in his moves, and I'm sorry, I'm a little concerned. I don't see that same patience. I don't see the same quality, and I don't want to be prejudging, but I think it's almost like it's moving too fast. Like some of the decisions are made, guys I don't even think the Steelers in the past would look at. As far as coaching replacements, they were so particular. Look at how long and how particular they were with Mike Tomlin. They were always particular about it. Now it seems like everything's a snap of the finger, and that's the decision. Making fast, quick decisions is not a healthy thing. Oh, you got to use your noggin to look into what the moves you're about to make, because they're going to affect your franchise and the coordination of where you're headed for the trajectory of where you're headed in the future. So, Steelers, uh, buckle up. We're all going to have to buckle up together, because this is right now we're in scary land, and I'm kind of petrified, because I don't want to sit there and be in a position that we got to wait 10 years before we see a really good product again. That's a long haul, because we know the Ravens are, with the move they made of getting Henry, they're number one. And with the Ravens being one, Cleveland's right there, right behind there, knocking at the door. And Bengals are nothing to be sneezed at either. So we're in a very tough division, tough conference. If you're going to compete with the like I say, now you got Henry to deal with the Ravens. That's a nightmare. That's a nightmare to deal with. That's one solid man, and he can take down a lot of guys when he gets those legs charming. And then you've got the offensive Watson in Cleveland with so many weapons, and you've got Burrow in Cincinnati, and then you've got we're not even talking about Patrick Mahomes and the crew there, and yes, they were the other team that were biting for Boyd. That was the other team with the Jets that I couldn't remember. I knew it was a bigger team, and so who's going to come out with Boyd is the big question. I sure hope we do. Or something better. We need to get a number one. That's all I can say. Um, After that, yeah, we're in such a scary spot right now, and I don't know where it's headed, but we better have our act together. And that being said, that's pretty much it for this one. I think we got the Chiefs to still worry about. We got the Bills to still worry about, and these are the front runners of your, other than the Ravens, of your AFC. And now we got the Browns are there too, and the Bengals aren't far behind. You got a lot of teams you're behind, and you got up and rising teams coming along too, like tennis. Houston Texans really showed some serious growth this year. You got teams like that rising their head, and then the Jaguars are coming up. The Chargers are a talented team that are moving up. We got some serious, wise decisions to make, and if we don't, we're going to blow it. So that being said, I will, like I say, this is promised I'd get this one. This is originally the episode I wanted to do, but so much news is breaking all at once that it's like I said, we're in no man's land right now. And wow, I just hope the heads are on, and the brains are really working, and they get guys with some serious IQ and have eyes for talent, because we're going to need that to get out of this little mess. All right, so with that being said, I thank you for joining me. I'm not even going to say nothing about Steel Curtain, because this ain't looking good. We'll go from there, and I will do the next episode with the breakdown of the players that have been signed and the players that have been let go, and see if we've made improvements on. I want to find out what this Jackson's ratio is like. He's supposed to be half decent cornerback, so we'll see. And I want to see what Queen is compared to what we let go, and then Johnson. Are we moving forward? So that's going to be what I focus on in the next episode. The roster more so of what's going, and of course, as you know, with the breaking news now, we're at any moment's time, we're going to have our eye all over the other two QBs that have to be picked up, because that's going to break that could break any moment with the mess that just happened and the receiver situation. So, and then draft won't be far away either. All right, thank you for joining me. We'll catch you in the next episode, which I would say give me, for the next one, 2 to 3 days, unless something breaks that a QB or receiver is signed. Thank you for joining, and we will catch you in the next one. Go Steelers Nation, go! And boy, we really need help to go. God bless.